Let me ask you something. How many hours have you spent in school so far in your life? And I mean total. From kindergarten all the way up to wherever you are right now. If you're 17 like me, you've spent roughly 15,000 hours sitting in classrooms. 15,000 hours. That's almost 2 full years of your life if you didn't sleep. 2 years of lectures, worksheets, tests, homework, group projects where one person does all the work, and presentations where you read directly off the slides and pretend like you prepared. And after all of that, after 15,000 hours of your life dedicated to this system, can you honestly tell me that you feel prepared for the real world? Can you file your own taxes? Do you know how a mortgage works? Do you know how to negotiate a salary? Do you know how credit scores affect your entire financial future? Do you know how to start a business or invest your money or even write a professional email that doesn't sound like it was written by a robot? Probably not, because the school system didn't teach you any of that. It taught you the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It taught you how to graph a parabola that you will literally never graph again for the rest of your entire life. And it taught you how to memorize a bunch of historical dates just long enough to pass the test and then immediately forget all of them. And look, I'm not saying education isn't important. Knowledge is incredibly valuable. But there's a massive difference between education and the school system. Education is learning things that actually help you navigate the world. The school system is an outdated institution that was designed over 100 years ago and has barely changed since. In 2026, this system is actively failing an entire generation. And I have the data to prove it. The modern public school system in America was designed in the early 1900s during the Industrial Revolution. And this is important to understand because when you look at how schools are structured, it makes a lot more sense when you realize they were literally designed to produce factory workers. Think about it. You show up at a specific time. A bell rings. You move to your next station. You follow instructions. You don't question authority. You repeat the same tasks over and over. Another bell rings. You move again. You get graded on how well you follow directions and memorize information. And at the end, you get a certificate that says you completed the program. Does that sound like a school or does that sound like a factory? Because it was designed to be both. The system was built to create obedient, efficient workers who could follow instructions on an assembly line. And for the early 1900s, that actually made sense. The economy needed factory workers. It needed people who could show up on time, do repetitive tasks, and not ask too many questions. But we don't live in that world anymore. We live in a world where factories are automated, where artificial intelligence is replacing entire job categories, where the most valuable skills aren't memorization and obedience, but creativity, critical thinking, adaptability, and the ability to learn new things on your own. The economy of 2026 looks absolutely nothing like the economy of 1920, but our school system still does. And that's the fundamental problem. Let me hit you with some numbers because I think the data tells a story that most people aren't paying attention to. The United States spends over $800 billion per year on public education. $800 billion. That makes us one of the highest spending countries in the entire world on education. And you would think that with $800 billion, we'd have the best educated students on the planet. But we don't, not even close. American students rank 36th in math among developed nations. 36th. We're behind countries like Estonia, Slovenia, and the Czech Republic. Countries that spend a fraction of what we spend per student. In reading, we rank 13th. In science, we rank 16th. We're spending the most money and getting painfully average results. And these rankings have been declining for years. They're not staying flat. They're actively getting worse. In 2018, we ranked 30th in math. Now we're at 36th. We dropped 6 positions in just a few years. Something is fundamentally wrong with how we're spending that $800 billion. And it gets even worse when you look at the outcomes. About 40% of high school graduates say they feel unprepared for college or the workforce. 40%. That means nearly half of the students going through the system for 13 years come out the other side feeling like they aren't ready for what's next. And honestly, I think that number is low because a lot of people don't even realize they're unprepared until they actually get out into the real world and realize that nobody cares about their GPA. And this is where it gets personal for me, because I'm living this right now. I'm sitting in classrooms 5 days a week learning stuff that has absolutely zero connection to how I actually make money or how the real world actually works. Last semester I took a class where we spent 3 weeks learning about the structure of ancient Roman government. And look, I think history is interesting. I genuinely do. But in what universe is that more important than teaching me how to file my taxes? In what world is memorizing the dates of the French Revolution more useful than understanding how compound interest works? I made over $30,000 last year. And not a single thing I learned in school contributed to making any of that money. Not one. Everything I know about content creation, social media algorithms, video editing, audience psychology, revenue optimization, all of it I learned on my own. From YouTube videos, from trial and error, from studying what other successful people were doing and figuring it out through experience. The internet taught me more in 2 years than school has taught me in 12. And I know some people are going to push back on this and say that school teaches you soft skills. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you how to work with others. It teaches you time management. And sure, I'll give you that. School does force you to develop some of those skills to a degree. But let's be real about how it teaches them. It teaches discipline through punishment and fear of bad grades. It teaches working with others through forced group projects where you get paired with 3 people who don't care. It teaches time management by overwhelming you with homework from 6 different classes and letting you figure it out. Is that really the best way to develop those skills? Or is it just the way we've always done it, so nobody questions whether there's a better approach? Because I think there's a much better approach. And other countries have already figured it out. Let me tell you about Finland, because what they've done with education is honestly incredible. Finland consistently ranks as one of the top education systems in the entire world. Their students outperform American students in almost every category. And you want to know the crazy part? Finnish students spend significantly less time in school than American students. They start school at age 7 instead of 5. They have shorter school days. They get more recess. They have less homework. In fact, Finnish students get almost 0 homework in elementary school. And there are no standardized tests until the very end of high school. 1 test. That's it. Compare that to America, where students start taking standardized tests in 3rd grade and don't stop until they graduate. We test students constantly. We rank them. We sort them. We stress them out. And the result is worse outcomes than a country that barely tests at all. Finland also pays their teachers extremely well. Teaching in Finland is one of the most respected and competitive professions in the country. Only the top 10% of graduates are accepted into teaching programs. Compare that to America, where teachers are criminally underpaid, underrespected, and burning out at record rates. Over 300,000 teachers have left the profession in the US since 2020. 300,000. And we wonder why the quality of education is declining. We're losing our best educators because we refuse to pay them what they're worth or give them the support they need. Finland figured this out decades ago. We still haven't. And then there's Germany. Germany has a system called dual education, where about 60% of students go through an apprenticeship program instead of traditional university. These students learn a trade while getting paid. They graduate with 0 debt and immediately have job placement. They're electricians, mechanics, software developers, healthcare workers, all trained through hands-on experience instead of 4 years of theory in a lecture hall. And these aren't low-paying dead-end jobs. These are skilled, well-compensated careers with real job security. Meanwhile, in America, we tell every single student that they need to go to a 4-year university. It doesn't matter what you want to do. It doesn't matter what your strengths are. It doesn't matter if you'd be better suited for a trade or an apprenticeship. The message is always the same. Go to college. Get a degree. And then somehow everything will work out. And the result? Over $1.8 trillion in student loan debt. 43 million borrowers. The average graduate owes $37,000 before they even earn their first real paycheck. And for what? So they can compete with 250 other applicants for an entry-level job that pays $45,000 a year? The system is feeding students into a machine that doesn't even have room for them on the other side. And here's something that really bothers me that I don't see enough people talking about. The things that actually matter most in the modern economy, the skills that actually make you employable, the skills that actually allow you to build wealth and create opportunities for yourself. None of these things are taught in school. Financial literacy, understanding how money works, how to budget, how to invest, how credit works, how taxes work, how to build wealth over time. Almost no schools teach this in any meaningful way. And the result is that most Americans are financially illiterate. Over 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. The average American has less than $1,000 in savings. Credit card debt is at an all-time high. And this isn't because people are stupid. It's because nobody ever taught them how money actually works. We spent 13 years in school and never once had a class that explained how a credit card interest rate could destroy your financial future. Digital literacy and technology skills. We live in a world that runs on technology. Social media, e-commerce, artificial intelligence, remote work, digital marketing. These are the foundations of the modern economy. And most schools are teaching kids how to use Microsoft PowerPoint like it's 2005. We're preparing students for a world that doesn't exist anymore. Entrepreneurship and business skills. There are 17-year-olds right now making 6 figures from their bedrooms. There are teenagers building real businesses, creating real products, providing real value. And the school system has nothing for them. No classes on starting a business. No classes on marketing. No classes on building an audience or creating content or monetizing skills. If you want to learn any of that, you're completely on your own. Mental health and emotional intelligence. Anxiety among teenagers has increased by over 70% in the last decade. Depression rates among Gen Z are at historic highs. Loneliness is an epidemic. And schools are doing almost nothing about it. We have 1 guidance counselor for every 400 students on average. And that counselor is usually too busy with scheduling and college applications to actually help anyone with their mental health. We're putting kids through 13 years of stress, pressure, comparison, and social anxiety, and then acting surprised when they come out the other side struggling. Now, I want to be very clear about something because I know how this sounds. I'm not saying school is completely useless. I'm not saying you should drop out tomorrow. I'm still in school myself. And I do think there are valuable things that you can get from the educational experience. Being around other people your age, learning how to navigate social situations, being exposed to subjects you might not discover on your own. Those things have value. And I'm also not blaming teachers. Most teachers are incredible people who genuinely care about their students and are doing the best they can within a broken system. The problem isn't the teachers. The problem is the system itself. A system that was designed for a different century and has refused to evolve. A system that prioritizes memorization over critical thinking, testing over creativity, compliance over curiosity, and standardized outcomes over individual growth. The world has changed dramatically in the last 20 years. The economy has changed. Technology has changed. The way people communicate, learn, work, and create value has fundamentally transformed. But the school system? It's basically the same as it was when our parents went through it. And that gap between what school teaches and what the real world demands is getting wider every single year. So what's the solution? Because I don't want to be the guy who just complains about problems without offering anything useful. I think the solution starts with a few things. First, we need to completely rethink what we teach in schools. Financial literacy should be mandatory from middle school onward. Every student should graduate high school understanding how to budget, how credit works, how to file taxes, how investing works, and how to avoid debt traps. This alone would change millions of lives. Second, we need to introduce real-world skills into the curriculum. Basic coding, digital marketing, content creation, entrepreneurship. Even if students don't pursue these as careers, understanding how the digital economy works is essential in 2026. It's like not teaching kids how to read. The digital economy is the economy now. Third, we need to offer more pathways besides just the college track. Trade schools, apprenticeships, vocational training. Not every student needs to go to a 4-year university and go into $40,000 of debt. Some students would thrive in a hands-on environment learning real skills that lead directly to good-paying jobs. Germany already proved this works. Fourth, we need to invest in teachers. Pay them more. Give them more resources. Give them smaller class sizes. Give them the respect they deserve. You cannot have a world-class education system while treating teachers like they're disposable. And fifth, we need to teach students how to learn, not just what to learn. The most valuable skill in 2026 is the ability to teach yourself new things, to go online, find information, evaluate it critically, and apply it to real problems. That's how I learned everything I know about making money. Nobody taught me. I taught myself. And if schools focused more on building that skill instead of forcing students to memorize facts for a test, every student would be better prepared for whatever comes next. I know changing the entire education system isn't going to happen overnight. These are massive systemic issues that require political will, funding, and a complete shift in how we think about education. But that doesn't mean you have to wait for the system to change. You can start right now. If your school isn't teaching you financial literacy, go learn it yourself on YouTube. If nobody's teaching you how to code or create content or start a business, there are thousands of free resources online that will teach you better than any classroom could. If the system won't prepare you for the real world, then prepare yourself. That's what I did. And that's what I'm going to keep documenting on this channel. How a 17-year-old is navigating a broken system and building something real despite it. Not because I have all the answers. I definitely don't. But because I think these conversations matter. And I think more people our age need to be having them. If you want to keep talking about this stuff, drop a comment telling me what you think about the school system. Do you think it's broken? What would you change? What's the most useless thing you've ever been taught in school? I genuinely want to hear your answers because the comments on this channel are where real discussions happen. And if you're new here and you want to see more videos like this, consider subscribing. I'm going to be posting every week about money, life, school, Gen Z, and figuring things out as a teenager. All over Minecraft gameplay because honestly, there's no better way to have these conversations. That's all for today. I'll see you in the next one.